Okay. Welcome to part 3 of Looking for Someone to Blame. I've made notes this time, so hopefully it's not as clumsy. In previous videos, I put it on the editors and creators. All the blame went in their direction, but you knew we weren't going to skip the publishers, and that's who's getting it today. I'm going to extend them the benefit of the doubt that they'll receive this criticism in the spirits that it's intended. I don't know. I know I don't necessarily help my career with these videos, but I think there's smart people that want the best for comics, and those are the people that are going to receive what I'm saying, and those are the people that I would like to work with, and I guess I just can't be too concerned is what I'm saying. I hope you know I'm wishing everybody the best here. So you may be thinking to yourself, he already came at the editors and they work for the publishers, so I think he's got it covered, right? But there's a distinction here. Editors can make mistakes, but ultimately they can only make the mistakes that they're permitted to make, if you follow me here. They operate with parameters and they work under mandates. So what are those mandates? Well, that may be part of the problem. We don't know. You may be saying they don't owe you the truth. They're companies. And that's very libertarian of you, and maybe I agree, but they don't owe us anything. But they might want to share information because having no faith in someone and no insight into what they're doing is a bad combo. A dude cheats on his girl and she takes him back, and now but part of that arrangement of coming back is he's got to share his texts with her whenever she asks, right? Is it demeaning? Yeah, but he put himself here, and if it's the only way to reestablish trust, then it's just what's got to be done. So I think the publishers should consider being a little bit more forthcoming. I should mention that retailers have dozens of their own grievances with the publishers, but it's very difficult for me as a non-retailer to parse what's reasonable and what's not. Maybe one of them has a YouTube that you could check out. I don't know. So moving on. This is a big grievance from creators, but it bleeds into how readers process a thing too. The big two, knowingly or otherwise, have killed the idea of a star creator. A fellow creator asked me the other day, can you name an industry where the top performer goes missing and nobody cares? And I couldn't, but I also couldn't think of who he was referring to. But he meant Donnie Cates. And this is an interesting test case here because Cates was the biggest thing going. And since he's taken a leave from comics, nobody noticed, and that's no disrespect to Cates at all. It's disrespect to this thing that we've created where there's just not stars of the type that we used to have or should have. And that's because the publishers don't want anyone to get bigger than the characters, and that's understandable up to a point. But a league without LeBron is less of a league. He puts asses in seats. If the NBA heads sit around thinking about ways to undermine LeBron and minimize his power, I mean, they don't deserve to be heads of a league, right? So, and they would be replaced. The prevailing wisdom is that Marvel still feels a way about being burnt during the image exodus. But I don't believe that corporate memory is that long. If there is some past experience that is informing specifically Marvel's approach to the kind of non-star building, it's probably the second image exodus. Brubaker, Faction, Remender, Hickman. I don't know who I'm forgetting, but those men are self-directed, and once they didn't need Marvel, it was it was a brain drain, a dangerous brain drain for the company. And I think there might still be some of that sting somewhere. It makes more sense than going back fucking 30 years. But if you doubt there's some malicious effort to keep creators below a certain level of celebrity, okay. I don't like to ascribe malice to anyone either. Let's look at it a little bit more magnanimous here. I'm open to the idea that this is completely unintentional, but that's its own managerial issue. The day of this recording, I read that Al Ewing's latest book, Avengers Inc., has been canceled at issue 5. Ewing was red hot coming off Immortal Hulk. So, what is this? He's getting books canceled now? Do people not like him anymore? No. Obviously, they still really like his work. But he was allowed to waste his time on a book that literally anyone could have told you would not get to 10 issues. Even if Ewing begged to do this book, someone at Marvel should have put their foot down and said, no, it would be malpractice. You know what I mean? It would be wrong of us to let you harm yourself that way. Because I'm all for pursuing your passions and following your muse, but that's not the game at the big two. That's a different thing that they're doing over there. There's an equation, and it's how many flops can roll off your back before retailers and readers think you're a flop factory. You know what I mean? Before they lose all confidence in your ability. Some creators get a dozen duds. Others get 2. There's no way to know until the phone stops ringing, and it depends on a lot of things. But once you're out, you're out. It's important that we keep everybody in. Maybe not in the Marvel DC system, but keep them as hot. So, we've all got different career journeys, and even if Ewing plateaus here, there's no shame in that. He's done work people really think highly of at Marvel, and there's plenty of time for him to still build a creator-owned career. But whoever okayed that Avengers Inc. book was not considering Ewing as a potential star. I'm sure they were grateful for his ability, but they just weren't interested in furthering him as a brand. I think that this, if they had, it would serve them, right? And I think that they're being short-sighted and seeing it the other way. But so that's got to change. Right now, stores are ordering fewer titles. We'll get into that when I turn my eye to retailers. But if the big two don't foster a star system under their umbrellas, they're going to leave retailers with no options once the existing names start to fall off. And everybody falls off eventually. We're in that moment right now where the coyote has run off the cliff and just hasn't looked down yet. She's still suspended in the air, but it's scary because I'm concerned that there's not gonna the roster isn't deep enough, the bench isn't deep enough. So short-term thinking is unacceptable right now. There's too much at stake. There's too much riding on the backs of the big publishers. Again, I say this all the time. I don't want to rely on them, not because they're bad, but because I don't want to rely on anybody. But it is what it is. All right, while we're enumerating bad behaviors, let's talk about the crack habit, right? Variants are irresponsible. Everyone knows that. We all do it because the market has painted us into a corner, but the publishers have to pull the brakes. It's poison, and stores are hooked on that poison. You got to be the responsible dealer at some point. Cut them off. Let's start over on that bullshit. Crossover events are such an old school complaint that it just feels retrograde now. People have been mad about it for so long. It's just like an assumed grievance. It's baked into being a comic reader. The crossover events derail good books to inflate the sales on bad books. it's just more poison. That's got to stop as well. But it's almost no point in complaining about it. They just love it. A more recent complaint is the political agenda many readers detect in these books. If you've seen my videos or read my work on it, you know my position. There is no politics in comics. It's a farce. But for a while, it did appear that there was some type of aim, maybe an agenda, you could use the word, or direction, and it can't seem to come out of nowhere. Was that order from the top? I don't know. I mean, what would the language be? We need to provoke the shit out of 50% of the readership. You know what I mean? Was that the mandate? I just can't see it. I assume there's a vibe that leadership kind of disseminates, but you still need the editors to take the reins. So I just think it was a broad sensibility shift furthered by hiring practices from editors who had friends, whatever. But, all right, last up, the publishers need to pay more, period. That's not me looking out for myself or my peers. It's just a fact. Most industries have a 1% of ultra-high earners, but comics has 4 dudes making great money, and everyone else is living in SROs. It is difficult to hire anyone of real talent if they have a million other options and you're offering dog shit money. This one doesn't need to be furiously debated. That's just a market economy for you. So, respectfully to everybody, to the talents that are working, but that's an aberration. You don't get great talent on bad money. That's just, that's an understood, right? Or at least you don't get them to stick around. Maybe great workers come in, but they don't stay. And that's something that could change tomorrow with the right leadership. Right now, the publishers answer to the ones that answer to shareholders are playing games to pump numbers ahead of earning calls, right? Imagine playing a long game there instead. Imagine doing things the right way instead of doing things the frantic, desperate way. And paying people is the most long-term play there is. It tends to work. So I tried to keep this concise. I took notes, like I said. I'm killing it right now. These are all solvable issues. I asked the publishers, please approach these problems with that mindset. Solve it. The one real benefit of being a relatively small industry is that we can be more responsive and creative about how we tackle problems. And now would be the time to tackle those problems. So, all right, enough from me. I don't want to get myself in too much trouble. Next, we'll direct some blame at the retailers. That will get me in trouble. I don't expect that to help my sales, but I'm hoping that they understand that I'm on their side. That's for next time. Thank you for joining me. Like I say, it's a work in progress. I think nicer camera coming this week. We'll see how it goes. Appreciate your viewership.